A very good morning to you. And yes, indeed, as Dibal Aina rightfully mentioned, I'll be taking over from this front, looking at matters real estate in Nairobi and the greater Kenyan region, of course. I'm trying to touch on, of course, your private homes and also looking at the industrial availability of land that you might be looking to set up shop here. And just by way of introduction, I'm honored to have four gentlemen who will lead this discussion. From far left, I have Peter Karoki, who's MD Lifestyle Properties. We also have Tito Duke, who's a commercial sales manager for Tatu City. We have VG, who's the MD of real estate, and I think he just wants his name as VG, Mr. Gikonyo there. And also next to me is Nick Langford, who's the head of Tatu City. Thank you so much for joining us today, gentlemen. I think I will start right, because of course the word on the ground is, Nick, it took so long to start, and this is the time that we're looking at Tatu City and time to launch it. What is taking us so long to launch this?
It's a huge project, Tatu City. Tatu City is the size of Karura Forest. It's 4 times the size of Upper Hill. A project like that takes a long time in the planning stage. But now we have real momentum on the ground, which I can explain. But it has taken a long time, longer than perhaps shareholders might have anticipated. But now that we've started, the momentum is taking us forward in leaps and bounds.
Indeed. And of course, the target here, you're looking at homes and also looking at industrial spaces. Last we spoke, I know there was a target to have, I think Unilever is one of the anchor shareholders, coming up and launching, their factories and moving from industrial area all the way up to the outskirts of Nairobi.
Yes.
First, to just comment about the client, and also, is this a trend that we're seeing with a lot of industrial, property owners trying to move away from the city?
Yes, it definitely is. We have, of the 430 acres of industrial land, we have sold more than 250. And it's not just Unilever. We have Dormans and Bidco and Chandaria Industries, Kimfei. They're 5 of the leading industrial companies in Kenya. And they have bought land now in Tatu City, and they have started construction. So Dormans and Bidco already started constructing on the site. In addition, there is a lot of infrastructure congestion in Nairobi, as you know. And coming to Tatu City on a greenfield site in a good location has attracted these industries.
Very well. VG, I can see you rightly have your business daily right in front of you. And the lead story actually is really more on, how expensive it is right now for us looking at the whole property boom, that it's really now more affordable to the experts and not really more to the locals. And the target here is looking at how the shilling is weakening against the dollar. From where you sit, especially interacting a lot with people looking towards investing into real estate, do you also sense the same?
Yes, certainly. What has happened is that why it has become less expensive is that there is in the last few years there's been a lot of good real estate that has been developed, and now most people have a lot of more choice. And I think what happened was why it was become very expensive is that for a lot of workers in the market, they want to be closer to where they work. They want, and that therefore meant that the property prices have increased in various areas like the Westlands, Upper Hill, anything near CBD, because somebody wants to be able to get to work in a very short time. But with well-planned cities, like what's happening at Tatu City, this is an opportunity to take a greenfield site and master plan it. Master planning is all about how you can create a better life for people to stay, to live, work, and play. It's a whole ecosystem where you live and work. And it's easy, you look at transportation, you look at public spaces, you look at entertainment, you look at commercial, and it's not only just residential and industrial. The whole of Tatu City is a whole mix of various developments that are going to be there. So definitely this, and despite that it has taken long for Tatu City to reach where it is, master planning cannot be rushed. It is definitely something that you have to have thinking about. Master planning, and even when you look at the original master plan of Tatu City, it has changed because of different circumstances and the way they market. And you need to react to changes in the market. And now you've seen that there is just a great interest by the industrialists to move to Tatu City, because some of the industrialists who maybe live in the Westlands or Runda area are finding it easier to go to Tatu City than to go to industrial area.
Very well. And of course, I like how you're bringing in the mix between, of course, residential and commercial. And shortly we'll be looking at what Britam Asset Managers actually commented, and they conducted a research and looking at, you know, the diversity of property markets, especially here in Kenya. We'll get that shortly. But just before I come to that story, I just want Peter to comment on that. Also at lifestyle, do you see the same trends, especially getting in the balance and, of course, the shift away from, you know, the city center to the outskirts?
Yeah, probably first introduce the business and the lifestyle. We develop housing, you know, for people, and mostly we develop estates. And what normally is what it's been referred to as gated communities. I think you not mentioned this, but we are part of the anchor. People who've gone to Tatu, but for our case, we're going there to develop housing, you know, and I think we'll be the first people to go to Tatu to develop housing for people. Yes, it's what has been missing in this country is planned infrastructure, and as you're noting from Britam Asset Management is that. When we have a planned development, when you have infrastructure that is fully developed, it becomes quite easy for the other people who comes in and develops the other aspects of the city to be able to do very well. We really are happy that that Tatu is able to develop all the infrastructures. And for us, it become quite easy to develop the housing. I'll give you an example. The developments we're doing currently called lifestyle terraces on Mombasa Road. We're developing a bit out inside in Syokimau, and there isn't infrastructure. There is no sewer network. The road network is not so good. Going to Mombasa Road and going to Tatu, because of the road network, is a totally different thing. So we expect that going the way Tatu is going, the housing market will be quite successful.
Thank you. Karuki, now I want to just move to Mr. Duke, because from your side, and you sit a lot with the clients, both local and international, kind of just give us a profile of how the trends are going, especially to the client base you deal with, and your unique selling proposition.
As the country develops and as the population increases, you find that a number of the areas, like industrial area, is becoming congested. Getting to the CBD is becoming a bit of a problem. And also, when you look at the trends on the residential side of things, the buyers are becoming more discerning. They want more quality. People want more spaces for their children to play. People want schools to be closer to their homes. And those are some of the things when you research on the mindset of a buyer. You find that if I'm looking for a house, my first thought would go into security. Then the schools, how close does my 3-year-old have to wake up at 5 a.m. to go to school? When you look at a development like Tatu, you find that the school is 100 meters from your home. Your child can wake up at 8 and go to school, no stress of waking them up at 5 a.m. When you look at the industrial side, excuse me, due to the congestion, when you look at these big industrialists like the Chandarias, the Unilevers, these are companies that have a lot of logistics, the big trucks. And something as simple as turning a truck in Babadogo is a big problem. But when you come to Tatu City, you find we have 30-meter wide roads. We have laybys for the trucks. We have actually a truck parking zone. And you find a lot of thought by the project team has gone into the design and what is called the ergonomics, how easily usable is it to the end user? Because that is the most important thing. You may have all these grand ideas of what you want to build, but what does the end user want? And that's what Tatu has captured, and that's what's making it attractive to all these major industrialists and the residential. Just a quick touch on the statistics. When you look at the sales, when you look at the industrial sales, over 50% of Tatu land is gone. When you look at the residential Kijani Ridge, we've done about 70%. So you can see there's a market out there that needs this kind of live, work, play environment, and Tatu, I think, has captured that quite well.
All right, great. And of course, I'm just trying to invite also our viewers. I see a lot of reactions, and rightfully into what you mentioned is that most people would want to reduce their work distance, of course, work and home distance, as commented with one of our viewers. And of course, to our viewers who would like to also just touch base and communicate regarding this conversation on matters real estate, feel free to tweet us at AM Live TV. I see also at Tatu_City, at Laban Cliff. Also, and we'll be able to preview some of your tweets also. Not forgetting at NTV Kenya. Nick, I want to come to you right now because of that statistic that I just mentioned earlier, which is about the 12%. You know, Britam actually conducted research and looking at the trends in real estate and just looking at residential and commercial. Now, I just want to touch more on the commercial side. First of all, in the CBD, we're seeing a lot of trends where, you know, most houses are going into institutions. Now, you know, most companies are saying, okay, let's free up the CBD and move over to Westlands. You mentioned Upper Hill, rightfully, and of course Parklands and what have you. On the industrial side, also what they mentioned that the spaces in Kenya are really more on, you know, they're not clean enough and not really efficient enough, you know. So those are some of the statistics that they mentioned, and they're saying, despite this, there's still a growth momentum experienced in the real estate sector. From where you see to Tatu City, do you sense this? And of course, as we head towards 2017, and of course being an election year, do you see how are you seeing the trends going, especially in the real estate sector?
If you take the industrial sector, the demand that we've received has been not only from end users of property, people who want to build their own buildings and occupy and run their own businesses from the Tatu Industrial Park, but we also have 2 deals or 3 deals now where we've reached tentative agreement that they will develop speculative space. This is a huge difference because not only is it just end users, but people have the money, the inclination to build and develop speculatively for occupiers to lease the space. And instead of the choices that are downtown in the congestion, as Tito so rightfully explained about congestion and the desire of companies to move out, it's the quality of the building itself. So these new spaces will be modern institutional quality industrial and logistics buildings, 12 meters high, clean floors, and they have the confidence that the rents that can be achieved, they will be able to finance and develop the product. So we have sold probably 40 acres of land for this type of development. So that's a very positive trend, not seen in Nairobi yet. In the residential market, as Tito's saying, we've sold now 165 plots of land in Kijani Ridge. We sold 30 acres of land to Peter for the development of his lifestyle homes project. We have another development with a company to develop low-cost housing, because when you develop a city like Tatu, it's not just for not just for the super rich or the middle class. We have to provide housing for the whole spectrum of the population, people from 2 million to 40 million. So we want to have products available in the market for everybody who wants to own a home. They can come and live in Tatu.
I'll come to that. Of course, the issue is usually about credit and looking at owning a home and mortgages.
Sure.
There's a question also about defaulting with a lot of mortgages, looking at how do real estate owners also look at how they can reduce that on the price. But just before I go to the next person, I just want to look at, yes, the next year, I mean 2017, because this is 2016. Yes, you're seeing a growth, but what of next year?
I mean, everybody talks here about election years and money being sucked out of the economy to finance the election, and the government doesn't have so much money to spend on infrastructure and its obligations. But maybe there will be a slowdown. I don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball. We can't. All we can do is provide product into the market. If you know, this is a 15, 20-year project to develop out the whole of Tatu City. So you can't just stop because there's one election year every 4 years. It would be, you have to proceed, carry on, drive the business forward, develop what people want. But it's a long-term strategy.
Of course, I'm not trying to, send a cold shiver down investors' spines, but it's just actually I'm still basing it on the research. Is that most of the times, they would actually look at a trend that is actually upwards all towards 2016 and towards maybe August, just due to speculation, that you'd find investors kind of holding back. But anyway, VG, I don't know what you're going to comment on that, but also from where you sit and what Nick mentioned about affordability, many people don't quite feel that they can, afford, and more often than not, any time they would actually, the mention of the name that, hey, buy a home, hey, look at towards expanding, it's always about costs and costs.
First of all, let me just make a comment about the trends. I've been practicing as a real estate practitioner for more than 25 years, and I've known actually Tatu City when it was Tatu Estate, because our company Axis started valuing Tatu Estate when it was a coffee farm in the year 2003. And if you just see the value that is of the land from the time it was a coffee farm to being master planned and what it is now. When you're having quarter-acre plots, when Kijani Ridge was launched, started at 7 million, which is about a year and a half ago, now selling at 8.5, and half acres are at about 13 million. There's a phenomenal growth in the value that has been seen. And actually, I think for Tatu, despite the delays they've just seen an increase in the value. But coming to elections, contrary to a lot of belief, there's no slowdown as you approach elections.
That's a good sign.
What happens is, because of elections, there's a lot of money in the market circulating. The politicians open their wallets, and it spreads to the people. They've got various suppliers. There's a lot of activity, economic activity, because of elections. The time you see a slowdown is just after elections, and we have seen that trend quite a lot. However, international investors will hold back in investing as they go up to elections, but not the local investors.
I thought this kind of, and of course, I mean, rightfully so on what you're actually reading. If you're talking about international investors, it's really more on expatriates and looking at how these properties at times are skewed to meet the demands of international investors. Mostly.
But what you're going to find out is that the Tatu City, most of the people who are buying the individual plots and the homes to build are the middle income, middle class, the population between the ages of about 35 going to about 50, 55. A lot of them are looking to now buy. This is going to be the second home.
Okay, great.
It's going to be retirement. That's my retirement home.
Perfect. Hang on to that thought. Of course, speaking about retirement, James, we have a call on the line. James from Kasarani. James, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Very well. It seems that you also want to make a move from Kasarani all the way to Tatu City. What's your question to our panel?
I would love to. Now, what's happening? I don't know. I'm personally very skeptical towards the Tatu City development. I think it's one thing it's taken too long to get to where it is now. I'm actually working with a serious real estate developer of British descent, and I think his views on Tatu City not very kind, because of course you remember the cases with the likes of Steve Waiguru and the rest. And then I think you had like 5, 6, 7 companies. This one buys this one has 30% stake in this, and all that. I think it's quite a conglomerate. So I think you need to do a lot to improve investor confidence. Really, really, really serious. And the last thing I want to tell you is Tatu City is now becoming, and sorry to say this on live TV, it's also almost becoming a killing field. You know, guys are being killed, towards the rear. You know the back route from Ruiru. Guys are using that route to kill people, dump bodies. And I think it's high time that you took that seriously.
Yes.
And you kind of put a fence, because I remember like 3 of our family members were killed and dumped there. So I think security-wise, you really need to do a lot to prevent that kind of thing, Tatu City being turned into, that like killing fields. But thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it. So 2 issues there, and of course that was the first question to you, Nick. Just take that on, especially the in and outs of courts, and of course how you really are managing to make sure that the investors their confidence, because this is really more of a long-term project. And of course, Tito, that's a question I'm sure you receive quite a lot: is how do you guarantee security, especially because what you're selling is a one-stop shop, industrial homes altogether. How do you guarantee that? So, Nick, you gonna go first?
Yeah, sure. Yes, it has taken longer to get where we are than people maybe at the beginning they thought about. But I think the momentum is really here now. So we have spending this year $20 million. We're spending 2 billion shillings on infrastructure. We have water supply that is already in place. We have water tanks that you can come and see, is 2 by 2,500 cubic meters. We have a sewage connection that will be ready in the next 2 or 3 months. We are building 9 transformers. They're already under construction on site for the power. And we've spent a lot of money building to Maram standard the 7 kilometers of roads through the site. This is actual what we've done. I think there has been a lot of talk about Tatu over the last few years. So we've kept a little bit quiet. And now that we have achieved this infrastructure spend and development, we're in a position to start really talking about Tatu City again. And it's not just the industrialists. There's a lot of interest from schools, from hospitals, from office users, from retailers wanting to come to Tatu now. It's alive. So yes, it was slow. Yes, it has taken a bit longer. Yes, we kept quiet about it, because if you do too much talking, then you just jeopardize people don't believe you.
Of course, you don't want to comment much on that.
But now that we started really in earnest, we have something to talk about. All I would suggest to the caller is that please come and see us in Tatu, and I'll show you around. All
right, that's James. That's an open invite to you. But Oduk, before I come to you just now, is Nick still on that? You bring in a very sensitive issue in the sense that more often than not, and it's actually been widely researched, is in the sense of that more often than not, it's really about perception. And I don't know from where you see it as an investor, is at times investors only go and say, what are people saying about this? What are people talking about this? I just wanted to look at an industry-wide perspective. And not only industry in real estate, but you feel free to comment also on the other side, because you deal a lot with these investors, is how does perception also influence, especially businesses, in setting up shop in Kenya?
I mean, it's very easy to be negative about something. When I don't, the people that I deal with are the people who show positive interest in Tatu City. So I'm not, if people are negative, I don't really want to speak to them. I don't need to speak to them, because there is enough positive interest that people who actually come to Tatu City, really, when they see it, there's a wow factor. And that is the message that we're now trying to get across to the public. And come and see us.
Duke, assure prospective clients, say that
I think James has gone over the top by calling Tatu a killing field. It's, I think that's just trying to muddy the waters and create a perception out there that is not necessarily the truth. When you look at the master plan design of Tatu and even what's going on right now, Kijani Ridge, we are doing a 5.7 kilometer wall that's 3 meters high to secure the plots where individual buyers will be putting up their own houses. When you look at the industrial park, it has been designed into precincts that are easily controlled by the buyers. When you try and blame the killings on Tatu City, is not in charge of the security of this country.
But I get the concern really. It's
Yes.
to be more on the outskirts,
The outskirts,
areas.
the
because
area,
these are
the area
farmers.
traditionally,
Yeah.
and we have to be honest, that area has been associated a bit with crime, but that is why we are there, to change this perception. By doing these wider roads, by putting up street lightings from the Ruiru Junction all the way down to the Kamiti Junction, and once all the infrastructure is in place and all the fences are in place, you will even have a swipe card to come into Tatu. So it is a work in progress. It's unfortunate that whatever happened prior to that, but the key selling point of Tatu, other than the infrastructure, is how secure the environment will be.
Great. Peter, do you sense the same? Because really now, as you rightfully said from the caller, James, is more on, it's not really about buying the property, but also looking at the amenities around it, yeah? And here, of course, really touching on security, you're looking at the road infrastructure, the lighting, and what have you.
Yeah, I think I can comment on security and normally how security issues are sorted out. If you go back to that area, the area of Ruiru and Kiambu, initially it was all coffee estates, and with the laborers who used to work in the coffee estates, some of them have relatives who probably were not doing anything, and probably that's where insecurity came from. But that's now being changed totally. And like Tatu, with the deformments coming in, with all, as Oduk says, with all the the deformments that are coming in, the place is no longer now a bushy area, so the security will be totally sorted out. I think James is right to say the people have been killed that area, but then where in Nairobi don't you get people being killed? So it's not good to really.
Very well. From John Gedaiga, of course, reaching to us through social media platforms, that is the next big thing, and also looking at it's a well-to-do resident scouting for an outlying atmosphere. I don't know what he means there by walkie-talkie, but well, I mean, still following us and watching with the hashtag AM Live NTV. But of course, these are, I would say, some of the viewers who may also be looking at kind of a prospective client, and I just want you to case in point, and this is somebody who just walked into your office and they're looking at kind of a run through on the end to end on what it will take, especially buying land and property off plan, because really here it's not about the land, and of course you sell it to them a master plan. What's the procedure? What really goes on in this?
Well, those people, you can divide it into different categories. If you want to buy land to build your own house, then we have the product in Kijani Ridge. And it's a very simple process of identifying the piece of land you want, putting down your deposit, going through the legal process, securing your land, and then you have until 2020 to build your house.
And the opportunity for credit you extend to? We
don't have credit, but there are several banks in Nairobi who have lent money to buyers. So there's KCB have lent money, NIC, INM Bank, Stanbic, and there are 7 banks that have lent money to buyers of property at Kijani Ridge.
I know this is not in your control, VG, but of course everyone who's getting credit from banks will tell you about the interest rates.
The interest rates, yeah.
They're too
Yes.
high.
That's the
Yeah.
very interesting. Yeah, that is the common thing about what the people talk about. Interesting statistics from Central Bank of Kenya. Only 20% of Kenyans there are only 20,000 mortgages in Kenya. Can you imagine?
Not too good for a country that has over
Yes.
40 million people.
But what happens is that a lot of the Kenyans who are, and a lot of the people who are bought in Kijani Ridge, I think would be half maybe have borrowed. The other half have either used their personal savings to buy or have borrowed using cooperatives. So which is a much cheaper way of financing your purchase. So most of the people are buying, have bought the land cash, and then they will then maybe take mortgage loans. And definitely these mortgage institutions have seen the opportunity, and that's why you find KCB, INM, and all the other banks rushing to finance people who want to buy in Kijani Ridge. Just to be able to, I'd like to just, still going back and touching on some of the things that James raised as an issue. Tatu City is the largest privately managed mixed-use development in this country. And I think, obviously, if it is going to be privately managed, it is going to become efficient. It's going to be good governance. And this is a very big area. Tatu City is 1,000 hectares, but a lot of people will understand it more in acres. It's more than 2,500 acres. So if you put CBD, you put Westlands, you put Upper Hill together, and the half of industrial area, that's the size of Tatu City.
Just go over it again. You're looking at, of course, combining different regions altogether.
I'm just trying to say,
Yeah.
CBD is 250 acres. That's Uhuru Highway,
Yes.
Haile Selassie Avenue, Moi Avenue, and University Way. It's 250 acres. Upper Hill is 750 acres. That's looking at it from Milimani, Serena, going round to Kenyatta National Hospital, and coming down to Railway Club. That's about 750 acres. Okay? Westlands is about another 250 acres. Okay?
Yes.
Industrial area is about maybe 500 acres. So if you combine all that, that's the size of Tatu City. Why wouldn't it take long
Yes.
to develop all that?
Okay.
It has taken us more than 50 years to develop this place.
100.
And I don't think it's going
And
to
still,
take...
I'm not sure if we got our infrastructure right at this time, same time.
That is the beauty about a well-planned city. And that's what Tatu City is all about. It is not just a gated community. Yes.
Thank you. Oduk, I just still looking at, of course, the profile. I'm not sure I kind of fully understand, especially when I asked that, Nick would have a few clients who just want to do a bit of walk-ins.
Yes.
Is they're mostly prospective, and these are really people who first do not have, say, credit, and also might not really have the security that banks would need for them to guarantee. Yes. I'm just looking at aspirational client, that people who would want to come in. You've all had an invite to James to come and look at the development, but I also want to look at some of the other extended benefits that you'd have, especially to the residents around Kiambu County, where this project is held.
The impact of the project will be massive around the area, because we do first a lot of CSR in that area. We're going to put up a polytechnic for the youth around the area, so the people who traditionally were coffee pickers are going to be absorbed to work in Tatu, because you're looking at a population of about 150,000 by the time the city is fully fledged. Secondly, value addition on the land. By virtue of Tatu City being where it is, the land values along the Ruiru Kiambu Road are going to skyrocket, because Kenyans we are unique and we have good business sense. And I'll put up a housing project next to Tatu and market it as next to Tatu, or call it Tatu something. And it raises the whole profile of the area. Looking at the buyers in particular, as VG has mentioned, we only have 20,000 mortgages. But there are millions of homes. How are people buying this? Most people save. Traditionally, most of the buyers who come to Tatu, and you look at the Kijani Ridge, are cash buyers. So I'll live in Buruburu for a while saving money, put a deposit, buy the land, Then slowly, once I've finished off with the land, I start building it slowly. That's the traditional model of a Kenyan homeowner. So
Let me come to that, because really, what will be the average cash buyer? How much will they be carrying in their pockets if they come to you and they're buying a home? Give or take, just give me an average.
They'll have the 10% deposit, 800,000. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Oduk, somebody would have 800,000, close to 1 million shillings cash.
Cash. They will. But you have to realize that these are people who save. As you said, they're aspirational. When you're aspirational, you're aiming to something and you'll sacrifice. You'll find people who live in Buruburu and these Eastlands area. They're not broke people. Their household incomes there are about $500,000 to $1 million per month. So these are people capable of saving, let me put roughly 100,000 a month. At the end of the year, you'll have 1.2 million. You can start your project.
Okay, let's have a look at some of what you are actually saving for in some of the real estate, and looking at aspirational clients. What you see on the air right now, if Mikey, our director, could just play it for you, just a few kind of snapshots of what Tatu City has, and you can see that on air. We have a few more. Okay, see what you have is really on the reactions on social media. I was just about to show you. So we see Cheryl Rosie saying that Tatu City is rising. Whole profile of Kiambu County. Most people want to reduce their work-home distance. That's according to Economy World. I see that. But of course, still speaking to this, we wanted to have a look at the overview of Tatu City, and those are some of the pictures that we'll be playing for you shortly on TV, and also looking at the clients, really. I'd want to walk into your office with 1 million shillings and say that I'm buying it, so I'll save towards that. But I just want to bring you, Peter, to comment on that, because first is on the issue of the saving culture. The World Bank has noted Kenya doesn't really quite have a strong saving culture, so credit is quite hard to come by. That is one, and the second is really on the property prices. Are we on the verge of kind of a boom that perhaps might break out, because looking at those high prices and looking at what will happen future forward?
If I start with the last question, it depends on where you are and what market you normally you target. I take my case in point. We target the people who are able to afford houses all the way from 4 million to about 15 million. And we divide that into two groups. The one between 4 and 8 million, and 8 million up to 15 million. And then I'll connect this with what you had said, that next year is a general election year. And the perception that normally comes up is that when you're nearing that period, because of the situation and the chaotic that comes with general election, the business goes down. But that's not what we've observed from our clients. Our clients are normally the middle-income people. These are Kenyans who have that. I think that's persistence, and they will always be able to to buy housing. They will be able to invest in housing. Our case in Tatu, we're going in Tatu to develop apartments and townhouses, and we have acquired 10 acres. We're starting with 10 acres, and eventually we go to the rest of the land. We have 30 acres in total. We'll start houses for people who actually do not want to buy, land and build their houses. And what I've observed in the market I'm in is that most of my clients are first-time owners. And that's the same market I want to continue in, and as going even to Tatu. Those people who've been buying units in places that do not have much security, do not have much infrastructure, do not have other facilities like schools and malls, or if they are there, they are not well developed. And Tatu is a promise to do all that, and I'm sure it's going to do that. Going back to the buyers and the interest rates, I'll tell you, almost 30% of people who buy houses the first time, they do it cash. surprisingly, we talk about mortgages, we talk about people not being able to buy units. But people are buying units. And you ask yourself, why is it that the property market, despite those people who keeps on talking is about to burst, it's about to burst, but it really doesn't burst. And I don't think it's going to burst here. Look at the increase in middle income and the middle income people in the country. It seems to be persistently increasing. These people require housing. These are the educated people. These are the professionals. These are people who are, who are doing businesses, and they persistently require houses. Another aspect of the buyers today, and especially these are the ones we target, and they really don't want to go and mandate themselves their hands with brick and mortar and build their houses. They want something that is done. Because they're busy doing, like you, Laban. Yeah. Really, would you be able to go and buy a plot in, and start building? It's too much, true, isn't it? Yeah. But if I come to you with a plan and tell you, Laban, I've got a 3-bedroom here for you. It doesn't have a 7-quarter, 150 square meters, for only 10 million. You say, what's the deposit?
It depends on what credit extension that we might have, especially because I represent a lot of, especially the young people who would look at, of course, that aspirational sort of group, that they want to buy it. Nick, I'll come to you, of course, and we'll touch onto that, especially the cash buyers. I'm really interested into that. But before I do that, I want to get a caller on the line who's joining us in the market today. If I got the name correctly, Wambuku. Wambuku, can you hear us? Wambuku, all right, I think we lost Wambuku, of course. Feel free to join in and call us. And also to your viewers who would like to also engage our guests through question and answer, feel free. The numbers are on air for you, and you can actually see that. And feel free to engage our panelists onto that as we discuss matters of real estate. Yes, to that very question that I was saving up for Nick, is yes, you'd find, the cash buyers walking in to you. And what the balance here or the theme line is really much to do with money laundering, because what we'll find is that because it's open up to international investors and perhaps, somebody made a deal from somewhere around the world and they came in, do you have checks and balances to actually see? Because perhaps the money might be hard to come by locally, especially looking at credit extension services in Kenya.
Well, I think if you look at the industrial sector, the companies that have acquired the land, we don't need any to discuss where the money comes from, because these are international players of very high standing. In terms of individuals who are buying a plot of land, you're talking of 9 to say 13 million. It's not so much money, but we do have there's a corporate procedures in terms of where the money comes from. A lot of these have been financed by the banks, so that again is money that we don't need to necessarily know where it comes from. And cash buyers, well, it's within in terms of the amount of money involved, then individual cash buyers will buy, and I don't. We have procedures to find out exactly where the money comes from in specific cases where we are concerned about it.
Very well. I'll come to Vijay, especially on that. I just want to touch on. Some people will say, well, if you're questioning where I got the money, I might as well walk away with it and perhaps not even invest in your project. So kind of there's usually that thin line, because you want to make sure that also people who are buying from you are actually very credible and people of good standing in the society. But at the same time, how do you also kind of bring in a balance and make sure that you actually accommodate clients who come into you?
You see, what happens is that when anyone makes a commitment and signs an agreement for sale, he is actually paying a 10% deposit. He is very sure that he'll be able to pay the balance, because if he doesn't, he loses the 10%. I think because of, obviously there is a bit more checks and balances with various legislation that has been put in place by the Kenyan government. You need to understand where the sources of funds, so that it's ensured that it is not money laundering or proceeds from corruption or whatever. And I don't think that there's been any case within Tatu City where such has happened. So I foresee that there is going to be continued interest in this development. Just to mention, to add some more statistics, Ruiru, where Tatu City is adjacent to Ruiru city center, is the fastest growing town in Kiambu County. People think that it is Thika. It is actually Ruiru.
And then here you're looking at what parameters?
In terms of urban development, population growth, financial, the economy just basically that's growing.
Are we seeing a slow shift from agriculture, because that's what we know it about, into more of brick and mortar?
Yeah, there is even there has been a lot of shift from agriculture, from the coffee farms to residential, and in fact the shift has become so fast that the Kiambu County wants to slow it down, because they have to put some control on that. Otherwise, a lot of the coffee in around that area is going to change. So that's why they want to, before they allow any change of user from agricultural to residential or industrial, whatever, they would like to see that it is a well thought out, well planned development. And that is why Tatu City went very quickly through the environmental impact and assessment. It was approved, and it was then seen that is a well planned. There's a lot of public spaces that have been created. More than 30% of it's not just a concrete jungle. There is a lot of green area. So of course, when you look at urbanization and urban population, I mean, there is a great the urban population in Kenya is growing fast. Ruiru and Tatu City is the third largest, fastest growing city in Kenya. Number one is Nakuru. Number two would be Eldoret, and of course Nairobi. I wouldn't want to classify it as. But when you look at those other cities, I think even Ruiru is faster growing than Kisumu.
Okay.
And obviously with a young population, the statistics obviously show that over 60% of Kenya's population is below the age of 40. There's a growing middle class. That's definitely, and obviously Kenya's population growth at about 2.6, 2.9% annually means that there is going to be continuing demand for urban, well-planned urban spaces.
Nick, you want to add on to that?
Just to add to that, the population of Tatu City over the next 10 years to grow to its 150,000 takes up about 8% of the growth of Nairobi and its environs. So without the 10%, Nairobi would be even more congested and have a lack of infrastructure. At the moment, there is there's 25% lack of water. There's lack of power in the outages in Nairobi, but in Tatu City there won't be that. So we are assisting in the decongestion of Nairobi to a considerable extent.
And look at decongestion, of course, increasing the social amenities
Yes.
according to that. Oduk, as we come to a soft landing, of course, and I know the many questions will still come up. I see a lot of reactions on social media, but mine to you will be, you seem to really agree more on the 30% of us looking at how the Kiambu County government has given that opportunity. Yes. But just before I come to that question, I don't want to lose this call on the line. We have a call on the line. Hello, can you hear us? Alex, hello? Can you hear us?
How are you?
Yes, Alex, here calling from Magadi. What's your question to our panelists?
Yes, I'm Alex Ngisila from Magadi.
Go on,
Hello?
Alex. Yes, please.
I'm hearing you very well.
Yes.
And we are hearing that concerning the Stone City.
Yes, please.
And my question is, what are the challenges of in becoming that process of development? Nini huwa na challenges gani huwa zinasikia ikikuwa wakati ya kugrow ama wakati unafanya hiyo process ya city?
Yeah, patches.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Very well. I think, Peter, you got Alex on that. Thank you, Alex.
Get him. Okay, the process of purchase he's asking.
The process of purchase is like more on the challenges of the process of purchasing, especially towards property. I'll look at it also as a prospective buyer who's also keen.
Okay, you know, this normally happens, and Kenyans are skeptical about it because there's so many practitioners in the industry, especially in the real estate, who are not honest. And I can understand Alex. If you ever want to buy land, or you want to buy a property, you want to buy a flat, you want to buy a house, I think the first point is first to identify that land, and the second one is to go to a lawyer who's going to guide you into that. Most people would go into a property and they told it's good and they think it's good, and they start giving out money. The process always should be start with a lawyer. Let the lawyer help you in going to the Ministry of Lands and doing a search.
But Peter, there's a challenge into that, and of course I know lawyers have now been allowed to advertise their services, but there are lots of quacks in the industry, and I think people like Alex perhaps are quite prone to them, especially because it's flooded with quacks.
Well, that's a bit difficult now. If
no, I just wanted to because very pure advice is that somebody's looking to buy a property, and because I know other real estate, I know the VG, if you do this, is that you offer a one-stop shop where you'd actually come in. They'll even have in-house counsel where they'll even give you the procedures internally. I don't know if also that's an opportunity you have.
Yeah, we don't have that opportunity. But if you come to us and you want to buy a property, we will guide you. We'll give you the kind of expertise, advice that you need. And I know I've got my people, especially in sales, and they are able to comfortably be able to tell you these are the best lawyers, and they'll be able to identify depending on your class. You don't have a lawyer, then we'll advise you who is the best lawyer to handle this. We'll advise you which is the best bank to give you a mortgage, which is the best bank to deal with. That kind of advice, I think people before anyone, and Alex for instance, before you go into to buy any property, I think it's only fair to go to the experts. Don't go to the quacks. I think it's unfair to the lawyers to say that, but there are, but very few, I think, nowadays in the market, because the Law Society of Kenya, and I think the government is able to crack down on them.
Okay.
Very few, unless you can get somebody masquerading as a lawyer, but he's not a lawyer. So those are the ones now messing up. I'm not a lawyer, but I can defend them.
Thank you. Peter, just as closing remarks, and I just have over 2 minutes. From where you sit, future forward real estate, where are we headed?
It is, for this country, the future, especially the planned one, like Tatu, and one that is able to give what the client wants. There is good prospects. The opportunities are there.
Very well. Yeah. Oduke just had one question. Please react onto that. Kiambu County government, especially on the policies around real estate, especially now looking at prospective investors. And the question to you, real estate, where are we headed future forward?
Definitely, Kiambu County has to be concerned about the proliferation of developments and loss of coffee farms. But the process has been tightened now. There are limits as to how much you can develop. And also, in our talks with the IFC, there are alternatives being offered. There are new coffee zones being created so that we do not lose out on our production.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Vijay, same question to you.
The prospects in real estate is still going to grow. I mean, there was a question you asked, is there a bubble that's about to burst? I say no. There can't be a bubble that's about to burst. The demand is still out there, and the supply is still the demand outstrips the supply. The demand outstrips supply. So when you have a bubble is when there is too much lending, and that's what happened in the US, or there is too much supply compared to the demand. There is going to be growing demand. The population is still underhoused.
Very well.
Yeah, that is possible.
You mentioned the U.S. and I know my brother might be very interested, of course, in buying home, and I'm looking at the diaspora market. Just really touch on to that just before I come to Nick.
Yeah, well, the diaspora market, I think it is a very big market. When you look at the remittances from Kenya, from the diaspora to Kenya, it's estimated that over 70% of that goes into real estate. And if you were able to offer a product that suits those people, it works very well. Also, at the same time, when you look at the profile of the people who live in the diaspora, people who went there maybe 20, 30 years ago, and most of them now want to come back and retire here. Their kids will want to remain in the US, and you will see that population, the age profile of about 45 going to about 55 to 60, are the people who will be looking to invest in a place like Tatu City.
Just
very well.
just a quick jump in. As Tatu City, we will be attending the Kenya Diaspora Homes Expo in New Jersey, end of August. So we will be taking out these products out there and also educate the diaspora market on what we have available and plus the quality, and give them that assurance that whatever they're investing in the country, it's they're going to get good returns.
Yes, yeah. It's an advantage to them. I mean, looking at the Kenya shilling traded to the dollar,
definitely
it is. But again, so what happens to us who are in local and taking home money in Kenyan shillings? Sorry.
I'll talk to you after the show. I'll make you an offer.
Very well. And of course, Nick, I just wanted to touch on that because you commented earlier with Dibala, of course, looking at Brexit or Bremen and what the impact that would have. Most people do not quite feel that, you know, international happenings will not really have an inclination to local business. But as you rightfully mentioned, you're flying all the way to New Jersey to actually promote Tatu City.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm looking at, of course, it's really a connected world. Please touch onto that, and of course, looking at the future forward of where real estate is headed.
Okay. Well, as I said earlier, I think I'm not sure it's going to have a huge impact, Brexit, on or the decision that is made, if it is to leave, that is. Maybe the pound will weaken, and if the pound weakens, maybe there's less money to trade with, to export to Kenya. But I don't think it's a huge impact. In terms of where the market is going, I'm a believer, of course, in the decentralization. So I think a lot of people will decentralize to satellite cities, such as Tatu City, where you can live, you can work, you can leisure. The schools and hospitals will all be in one location. I think that is a definite trend, because Nairobi Council, although they're trying very hard to deal with the problems associated with congestion and lack of infrastructure, the population of Nairobi is growing from what, 3.5, 4 million to 7 million in the next 10, 15 years. It's very difficult to keep pace with that. So people will move, and I'm sure they will come to Tatu City. I just want to touch on one point, which is about the relationship with in Kiambu. So we're very aware of our obligations locally. So we will have a labour desk up by the end of this year, beginning of next year, where we will provide training for local residents in skills that are associated with the construction industry. And this skill set is sadly lacking, actually, in Kenya for tradesmen to deal with finishes in particular. So plumbers and electricians, plasterers, roofers, scaffolders, landscape gardeners. These skills are in short supply. And we're also working with Nairobi University, the real estate and construction department, to develop a faculty out of Tatu City where these trades will be presented to the population for apprenticeships in these artisan trades. So we're very strongly committed not only to develop Tatu City, but involve the community and involve in the future of Kenyan artisan industry.
Sorry, questions are coming towards the end. But of course, the value addition, because this is really more of agriculture, you're having industries setting up shop there. Your call also to farmers who are around there and the greater Nairobi. Can they also bring their produce to Tatu once the industries are set up?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's a free market, so we don't exclude anybody from a free market.
Let's go over the client again. Was Unilever, I think one of the anchor, especially on industrial side. Was looking at companies that set up. There's Unilever, which are other? Was Dorman's?
Dorman's Coffee, yes, they've already started construction. We have Chandaria Industries, who are relocating their factory from Babadogo to Tatu City. It's a significant players in the anyway, we sold Tito's. We sold 250 acres, and we have a lot of interest in the remaining 180.
Very well. Just before I let you go, thank you so much, gentlemen, for creating time for us. Right from a fine. Peter, thank you. So Luke, thank you very much. VG, Nick, thank you so much for being with us today. But just before I let you go, Kunguru from our social media platforms at AM Live and TV says, sooner or later, Tatu City will be a county of its own. All in favor say aye. I don't know if you believe onto that, because we have 47 counties and they say perhaps Tatu might be the 48th county. Yeah. Of course, that is something we'll be keenly following and looking at it. Great discussion we'll be having today in the market, looking at matters real estate and a closer focus on Tatu City and its recent development. Yes, it took some time, but as the stakeholders are saying, they're here and they're here to stay, and everything is set to roll. I have been your host, Laban Cliff.